everybody? How's it hanging? How's it happening? You guys know this is Kevin from the Chord Progression podcast, the gateway to new rock and metal music, where we're inspiring young rock and metal fans to discover new music and feeling their desire to connect and feel accepted. And if you want to connect and feel accepted by a band, ooh, lordy, is this going to be one for you today? And I cannot wait for you guys to listen to this one. Before we jump into it, though, I want to thank our sponsor, which is Phoenix Fitness. Yeah, my mug is somewhere with the Phoenix Fitness logo. I don't even know where it went, but okay. So why is Phoenix Fitness a sponsor, and why are we know all about them? It's all because of the thing called Mosh Pit Fit. Yeah, use that as a hashtag and tag us and all that stuff. So what is Mosh Pit Fit? Well, I love going to concerts. I love feeling present in the moment, like going and just going to the mosh pits and going absolutely nuts from start to finish. And I mean from the first opening band to the last song of the headliner. Like, I'm not taking any breaks, but I got to make sure if I want to do that, because that is what makes me genuinely happy, is I have to be in shape with my fitness goals. So that means I have to say mosh pit fit. So I go to the gym a lot. I lift a lot. I will go and do as much cardio as I possibly can. I will make the most out of it as possible. But I need to also make sure I'm preparing and recovering right to achieve those goals of saying mosh pit fit. And if you have fitness goals as well, you need to be able to repair your body and recover, prepare, all that kind of stuff. So that's where Phoenix Fitness comes in, because they have many different products to help you achieve those fitness goals and say mosh pit fit. Buy their products. So they have different like pre-workouts, both stim and stim free stuff. I use their stim free stuff because, guys, I'm energetic as all hell. I don't think I need any extra caffeine or stimulants, so I use their stim free stuff to get the pump. Yeah. They also have different B-cell recovery compounds to help you absorb the nutrients into the muscles post-workout. They also have different creatines, different types of protein, plant-based protein, collagen-based protein, whey protein, which is what I use. I use their chocolate malt flavor because that's good stuff. Multivitamins, literally anything you might need to help achieve your fitness goals or be like us and stay mosh pit fit. Phoenix Fitness has for you. So our listeners, viewers, and followers of the podcast can get 20% off using the code CPP20 at fxfit.com. Link is in the description below. Thank you, Phoenix Fitness. Now to our feature presentation with Luke from the band Happy Daze. And I gotta say, this one is awesome. This one is really awesome. Connecting with all the emotion around music and just the ideas, different philosophies. Luke's got it. This is a fun one. Are you guys ready? Let's go! Yeah. Well, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, listeners of the Chord Progression podcast. I gotta say, there is a great person out there named Tabitha. She works for both Thriller and In Vogue Records, and every time she sends me a band, I'm like, I need to, bring this band to the podcast, because all these bands are always incredible, always amazing. I love talking to them, and we've got another one rolling out right here. And they're coming to us all the way from the UK, which is just like even more awesome. And the fact that our man here right now is doing this at literally midnight his time when we're recording this is just absolutely incredible. I'm very thankful for it. This band has a brand new song called Faded, which will be out by the time this episode comes out. So go and listen to that song right after we're done with this podcast. But please welcome Luke from the band Happy Daze to the podcast. So Luke, welcome to the Chord Progression podcast.
How we doing, man? Good to meet you. Good to speak to you.
It's good to meet you as well. How has everything been going in your world? I mean, again, Faded out. You guys have released 2 songs for 2023 already. I mean, things seem to be going really well, so just confirming it. How's it going, man?
Yeah. It's going really good. It was a really long process of getting this last record together. So finally seeing it out in the world is a very gratifying experience. Cool Blue we were toying between what we were actually going to release first. We didn't know what the song was going to be, but I think we made the right choice with that. And yeah, I love the reaction to it so far. It's been awesome.
Oh, I think you guys definitely made the right choice with releasing Cool Blue first. We kind of jump in that now because I've been listening to that song for a good amount already. Not just today, but like ever since it came out, because it has a very, I love the flow of it. So when it came to Cool Blue, because of course, the first song you guys released in 2023, what was that role like? What was the reception like from the fans? And what were you inspired by when you came to writing this song? Because I'm always curious to see how this stuff turns out.
Well, like the contrast from the last time that we had released music was when we had played 2 gigs, like our first 2 shows, because our first year and a half as a band was taken up with the inability to play any gigs. So we played our first 2 shows on the run up to releasing our first EP. We released our EP, and then we went out and played a bunch of gigs with Neck Deep and Boston Manor, and then we wrote them. And over that period of time, we were obviously gathering fans out in the real world. So compared to when the last time we'd released music, it was like, twice as many people listening on the first day, and like we had played that song on tour as well, like while we were in Europe, and there's a bunch of people who'd heard the song already, and like being able to go back through and like look through our Instagram stories and see that, and like see the progression of the song from like being in the studio to going and playing it, and then see that out. It's just it's awesome, man. It's the reason that you do the whole process of being in a band. It's to see that end result, and we got there.
Oh, absolutely. You guys got there. And even when I was listening to Cool Blue too, I'm just like flowing with it, vibe with it. The first time I heard it, I'm like, what's going to happen with this song? What's it going to come out? What am I going to feel like with this song? Because I am never really sure what goes on there. But then right when I heard it and I felt, I'm like, I've felt this feeling many times before. And I've always felt it when I've been like, you're watching movies. And for some reason, this just kind of gave this calming feel to like, if I was watching a movie and all of a sudden, if this song got interjected into like a classic like 2000s, like maybe like teen comedy, or like, just like one of those comedies like Euro Trip or Road Trip, or I'm trying to think of some other ones, like even Super Bad. Like if you would have included in there, it just kind of had this like really weird feeling of just, at the same time, just accepting something at the same time. Just like, this is okay. This is okay. It felt like that.
A lot of people describe the sound as like very nostalgic, but like it is nostalgic because it's elements of music that we all grew up listening to. Like, we're not going to shout about the fact that we're all like 28 years old. Like that means that when we were listening to music as teenagers, it was like, like the rise of bands like My Chemical Romance and like Panic at the Disco and like the emo phase. Like over in the UK, it was like Funeral for a Friend was like the band, and you had to write like super heavy emotional songs. And I think that like we've just, well, I've not got out the funk of like just like, don't know why, it's just like the inability to write like a happy song. Everything just has to be like brutally emotional like every single time. But it's like being able to let the music like carry a different kind of emotion and have the contrast going on. I think that's what gives us like a little bit of an edge, and like mixing like the modern production styles that like not like not a lot of people are cutting about playing like 808s with like trap hats in 2007, but it still makes you think of like songs that were getting released in 2007 because that's the sort of stuff that we were inspired by, and beforehand as well, being like whatever you get when you're like 10 years old, your first pop punk album. Mine was American Idiot. But I don't think we have any fucking Green Day in our stuff.
Okay, this is kind of scaring me a little bit, because you're talking about your first pop punk album at 10 years old was American Idiot. I'm not sure if you're describing you or me at this point right now, because it's the exact same thing.
It's just what it is, isn't it? It's like for me, it was like the HMV advert of that on the TV of the video, and I was like, "What's that?" And it kept on coming on and on and on. And then I remember seeing it in a Tesco, just like a supermarket on like the shelf of like the chart, and I was like, "Can I get that?" And I got it, and like just absolutely rinsed it.
And just
never listened to the whole thing though. I was really bad with that with albums. I would get an album and then just listen to like 5 songs on it, like 6 songs at a push, but there would always just be some songs where I just be like, nah, and just skip it every single time.
I was kind of the same way too when I was younger. I mean, of course, the American Idiot, like right from the get-go, it starts out with American Idiot. You hear that guitar riff right from the get-go, and it was just like, it was the guitar riff that brought so many kids into that scene right then and there, because it was, I don't know what it was. It was just something that we could easily just like grab on, and just, this was ours now. Like this was our sound, and we just absolutely, even though Green Day had been around for how many years at that point and are still around doing this stuff, it really connects. But I understand what you're talking about too when it comes to your music, where it does have something, people are going to have some nostalgic feels to it, but a lot of it comes from the music that you guys were influenced by is a lot of the music that they listen to too. Like we're all like kind of one and the same at that point. So we connect on that. But with the modern production styles and also with your other influences, well, the way you create music, it does sound like, it has those nostalgic pulls, but it's not banking on, your music isn't banking on that nostalgic pull to bring people in. It is banking on, you're writing emotional stuff that has that kind of flow to it where, yeah, it's going to be deep. It's going to have a lot of meaning behind it, but you're also able to get into it where you can enjoy it at the same time too. And it's at the same time, it is impactful, but life is like, life, no one gets out of life alive. So why take it so seriously?
Yeah, totally. And like, I think I mean, like maybe we run the risk of that a little bit because of the like some of the lyrical content can be a little bit like when you actually pay attention to it, it's quite heavy. I never really think of it like that when I'm writing it though. It never like it's never really this. I mean, like more often than not, the process is like you start like I'll almost always start with like some form of like guitar riff or something, and then like bit of something to like keep the beat on, knowing where it gets kind of flowing. Then when a melody starts, it's always a melody first. Like a lyrical may become like Cool Boy was a weird one actually because it's like the song was like kind of in my head, and there was just these like couple of lines that I wanted to use. We wrote it just after coming back off the Neck Deep tour, so I was like super inspired to be like, we're going to write the best shit that we've ever done now. This is it. And I think I do think that like it finds its meaning once it's done. If you know what I mean, like you have a couple of lines and like, well, what am I talking about there? Like kind of like working backwards like that. It's comes from the subconscious. So yeah. But that's always why it's probably so fucking emotional.
Yeah. Or maybe, I mean, it's just coming from the subconscious, but maybe it's also a point in time too where you're starting out with those riffs and you're building instrumentals around it, and then you have an idea for a couple, like a line here, a line there. But what you're doing is at the same time, because I've talked about this with other artists and even myself when I'm, listening to stuff, this always ends up happening where I'm just feeling the way that the instrumentals are flowing, because the way the guitars are being put together, the way the drums are in the background, the way the bass guitar works, the way any kind of production is put in there as well that you're trying to work with, what ends up happening is it creates a certain emotion. It creates a certain feel that you're going across. And when you're trying to write lyrics towards it, you're trying to write that theme around there, write the message of the song, the story of the song. Subconsciously, it's the way the instrumentals are being put together, you're picking up on the sounds and you're connecting them to those specific emotions that you're feeling. So then it's going to connect to certain pieces in your brain. That's what's going to come out as the lyrics come out, as the vocal melodies, to maximize
Absolutely,
on
man.
that. And then
I really like the way that you say emotion because I've been kind of describing a lot of it like that recently because I think that that's the way that you can translate what you're feeling like. Like I want it to feel like this, I want it to feel like that. And I think that's when people talk about like oh like pop songs sound easy and all that, like the ones that really really resonate with people, like it takes a long time to be able to decide like that's the bit that like that's the sound that makes you feel that thing. Like it could be the same melody on 20 different instruments, but it's the 20th instrument that you tried that it was like that was the sound that got me where I wanted to get and make me feel the thing that I wanted to feel. Or like even better yet, like effects and stuff like that. Like we're in the studio that we're in this week, Jim got this pedal, can't remember what it's called, it's like vinyl something, can't remember, but it's like it just makes it sound like it's running to like a warped like vinyl machine, but it's not got that like it sounds like still really really crisp, and it's just having that warble in the background that you can play just like a really simple like three chord sequence and like you just want to cry.
yeah. So yeah, I'm just feeling this right now. I don't know what it is, but I'm
Yeah,
just
yeah,
really
yeah.
feeling this. And if you don't try out those many different ideas, you don't work out those like many different sounds that you might be able to work with, you might not get to that point where you might have the melody down, you might have the pattern, you might have everything down in the way you want to sound, the way the notes are, how the pitch is. You might have everything figured out perfectly. But when it comes to actually putting it out there, maybe you're trying to listen to it and you put an instrument on there and it just doesn't work right. Also, maybe you want to change something. Maybe it's the drum pattern. Maybe you're just hitting this. Maybe you're hitting one of the toms on top of the drums, on top of the bass, but you want to hit the floor tom as well because that might just give a deeper sound to it. Not as deep as the bass, but on the floor tom, it just gives a deeper sound. Might bring forward more of this forceful sound and maybe force a certain emotion that you're feeling out into the forefront so that when you get to the next part of the song on that transition, now you're absolutely feeling it, and emotionally you're kind of pushed into it at the same time as well, so you're really flowing along with the rest of the song. And then when you're writing the lyrics to it, you feel that push, and now all of a sudden now you're going from one spot to the next, and emotionally maybe you're thinking about something that's a little bit heavier in terms of the topic, but that little like extra hit from the floor tom just pushes you forward to going into something even grander because it's kind of that extra oomph subconsciously to get to that next point in the emotional story you're creating.
Yeah, totally. And I think like sometimes you go into it where you're like, "Hey, I've got this, like this is the idea, this is what I want to do," but sometimes like it's just like it's like anything, you've just got to practice. So like when you sit down and you've not got the idea but you still want to work on something, it's like it's that whole like fuck around and find out idea, like just like play something, add something else to it. How's that sound? It's not too good, try something else. Like I'm most of the time where I'm working on something, it'll flow. And if it's flowing, that means it's worth like continuing to work on. But if
Mhm.
like I've been at it for like even like half an hour and I'm not moving on to like the next bit, it's just staying as a loop. I'm just like, right, kill it, because like loops are great, but until it's got like a melody and like lyrics, it's not really doing very much. It's not a song yet, you know. It's not got that potential to move on to something worth listening to, or even worth being like, this is something.
Yeah, because if the other thing too to think about that is if you're stuck on it when you're writing, if you're stuck in that loop and you're continually stuck on it, I get trying in different things and trying different ideas at the same time. But if you're constantly stuck on it, you're not sure what to, but it's like, oh, but I like it. It might be time to kill it. Just if you're not able to figure it out and it's not flowing naturally, maybe all of a sudden you figure out something and it could be incredibly complex and it just doesn't sound right when after put it out there fully, you record it. And then when
Or your
people listen to a
mind's
live
just not
setting.
in that zone. Like you were in a specific zone, you had an idea. Like it happened to me earlier on today. I was like, I've had this guitar line in my head for a little bit. I got onto the computer, recorded it in, put a bit of drums and stuff on it, and then I was like, yeah, this sounds cool. Don't really know where I'm going to go after this. Fucked about for a little bit, and then I was like, you know what, this isn't actually going to go anywhere. So there's no point in stressing myself and tiring myself out before I've got to go do this all day again tomorrow. So, but like maybe tomorrow night it'll work. Like, you know, the session still sits there, and it's like that happened during lockdown. Like all the demos I was writing were just like cue and then like the next number again in the demos. So like the songs that we've released so far, like Bad Taste was Q12, With You was Q13. But like With You is a great example of that, where like I wrote all the music in a session and I sat down, I was like, yeah, this is great. And I couldn't think of a vocal line. And it was like a year later, maybe not quite a year later, it was like 6 months later that I came back to the song and I was like, no, actually, no, this is really good. We were just like, we would try to work something out, what we're going to do in the studio today. We're like, oh, let's record drums for that song. That'll be cool. And then I was like, yeah, this is great. What should we actually sing on this? And I started like vibing it out. And then it was just like, why did this song like sit there? You know, why was this not going to be a song? And like again, like Q8, which was just a beat, it was just a loop. That is now one of the songs on our next record that we've recorded. Just the riff, like much faster, but like the riff was great. And it was like, right, what are we going to do with that? Take everything else apart from it. That bit's great. Turn it into another song. So it's like everything's useful, but like I think the whole thing of like punishing yourself to like find a song or like finish a song. Too many people are inspired by like when they when they hear people quoting like the Beatles, where they're like, you know, like, the Beatles finished every song that they wrote. Like you don't have to be John Lennon and Paul McCartney. You can just like write a lift and go like, you know what, this is fine. Save, end it. You know,
Yeah, it's
I've
fine.
loved. Jim said to me today. Normally, like when we're recording stuff, I'm the guy that has to like, I'll record it and then like I'll edit it and that everyone else can chill or whatever. And then because we've self-produced for so long and I'm the one who'll sit on the computer. But like we recorded some vocals today and he turned around, he's like, that's you, go live your life. And I was just like, love it. So yeah, that's what more people who write music I think need to do. It's just like take the break every now and again and go live their life and just like get inspiration to come back and like write good songs.
Yeah,
Don't punish
because
yourself with the loops.
I'll say because if you're not getting that inspiration, maybe you wrote something and like you said, it comes out and it sounds fantastic, but you just can't think of what to, put over. You can't think of what to say over or how to sing over. You can't think of how to build off of it. And maybe it's because you create it and it works, but mentally the headspace that you're in, you're in it's a little bit of a song or sound that really fits for a more sadder vibe, a little bit more of a heavier vibe. And you're just in all happy-go-lucky territory because, oh, maybe the sun is out and it's a real nice day outside. And, ooh, I want to go pet that dog kind of feel. Like, I'm going to go pet that dog. But
It's that kind of thing though. That's like those are the moments where it's like if you're sitting there and inspiration just isn't striking, don't punish yourself. But the one that you do have to like, the rule that you do have to live by is like, even if it is like the best day in ages outside, and that's really difficult to do when you live in Scotland and it's like the sun shines like 3 days a year. And like you look outside and it's like scorching weather, you've got plans, everybody's like ready to go do something, but you got a riff in your head and you know that like as soon as you sit, you can like it's starting all the sections are coming to your head and you're just like, oh, there goes that day. You know, I'm stuck inside because I've got to work on this. Like you like take the opportunity every time it comes.
yeah, because you never know when that opportunity is going to strike again, or if that opportunity will ever strike again. I've heard comedy writers and just like comedians talk about it all the time, where they get an idea for a joke to pop into their head, and if they don't write it down right away, or they don't like speak it into their phone or their voice memos, or even for vocalists, or they get like the idea in their head for a specific melody or a certain pattern, it's like just kind of harmonize with it, just like kind of just go whatever it
Mm.
is. all of a sudden it's, you're able to come back to it. And maybe you forgot about it or forgot about the idea. You don't want to just take that idea and just potentially lose out on it because you got distracted or something, but always still being able to go out and get that inspiration when you're stuck at the same time as well. Because, like, what if it is a song that really calls for something that's going to be heavier, more emotional, and it's one of the 3 sunny days in Scotland where it's like, okay, my mindset is definitely not in on it. I have to finish this, but maybe what if I go outside for an hour and just walk around and see what happens? Maybe inspiration will hit me, maybe not. Maybe it doesn't hit you that day, but then the next day it's rainy and gloomy, and all of a sudden now you're in an emotional state where you're really connecting with that sound, and now you're starting to feel it in much more of a, I'd say impactful, much more of a heavy way where, holy shit, I now know where I want to go with this. I now know what I want to say. Let's keep rolling on this. And now that inspiration is flowing, and now the wheels are turning, and you're going, and you're just flying at that point.
Yeah, totally. I think I do think when the inspiration strikes, it's because of something though, and like you're in that zone. It's there's with what you were saying, like like comedians like having to write things down and stuff, like rappers and like I guess like some songwriters, like Noel Gallagher's the guy that comes to mind, where it's like he doesn't write anything down, like, and he writes like whole songs in his head, and then he'll go on a guitar, and then he'll pick it up and he'll like play and sing it for the first time, and there's a song that he's got called "Dead in the Water," and the take that's on the record is after like a full day of recording. He was like, "Oh, can I just put an idea down that I've got in my head?" And he done the whole song one take, and then they overdubbed some piano on it, but that's it. And it's like when you have that context before listening to that song, like you don't even need that context because it's an incredible song. It's a really, 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 really good song. But then you have that context, and then you're just like, there's like those small moments. It's not every single time, but like that's the proof of like how prolific somebody like that is. And I was watching a video of I think it was Rick Rubin talking about Jay-Z. Pretty sure that's who it was. And like they play him a beat, and he's like sitting there, and he like has an idea, and then he goes like he's like listens over like the beat over and over and over again, and then he goes in the booth, and then he just does it, and then he does it again and again and again, but he's not written anything down. And like there's great examples of it as well. And do you know a guy Kenny Beats?
I know the name, but nothing comes to mind when it comes to music. So I just heard the
So
name before.
he's a really cool producer, like DJ, musician, like just like all around like really interesting, creative, and like he puts out lots of really cool visuals with everything that he does, like super cinematic. And he has a YouTube channel, he Twitch streams and all that, like showing how to beat make. But he produces a bunch of bands, and he I can't actually quite remember where I was going with that, but like to check him out, you should oh yeah, with the whole thing with rappers. Check him out because he produced Idols. I don't know if you've heard of Idols. He produced their last record, and they're like a crazy, like really like just like I watched a guitar tutorial of them once, and they described their song as if Kanye West wrote an AC/DC song. And I was like, right, okay, that's really interesting. And like as soon as you hear it, you're just like, yeah, that's that. That is what that is. Cool. But yeah, he has this show called The Cave where he gets it's like videos the whole process of like he's just like chatting shit in the studio. He's making a beat for them. What type of mood are you feeling in today? And they're like, all right, I feel this type beat. He starts making that, and then he puts them in the booth, and then like people freestyle. And a lot of people like write bars. Some people do it like total shit because they need more time to be able to do it. But there's a couple of guys who've been on it where they don't write anything down. They're just sitting there like vibing away, chatting away, like take a couple of puffs on a doobie before they go into the booth, and then they just like spit for like 2 minutes, and it's like genius. Like that's the stuff that I have no idea how people can do that. Requires a lot of just like inner reflection, inner thinking, inner peace, being able to like silence everything out of the monologue and focus on just like this is what I want to say. I think that's quite a difficult thing to do quite a lot of the time. The world's a busy place, life's a busy thing to do. To be able to like zone it out is a big skill.
It is a big skill, and it is hard for all the time, especially just to be ever present in that moment where you're just focused in on, whatever that beat is, whatever that instrumental is, whatever that guitar riff is. What's the emotion that's coming of it? How is it making you feel? What kind of inspiration you're getting off of that? There's a lot of other things that happen that come through in our mind in the world. Maybe something's not going right at like maybe we're having some financial troubles. Maybe we're just having emotional trouble. Maybe just things are just not in the mind space that we need them to be in. And we just can't block everything else out to get focused on there. It happens. There's not a lot of people that can just, like Noah Gallagher just can't come up with a full song in his head and just block everything and still remember it and then do it in one take. There's very few rappers that could do exactly what you said, where it's just listen to a beat, go in the booth, completely freestyle, and then just that's it. Like that's what they're killer at. But it still speaks to the point where everyone, especially no matter who they are, whether you're a rapper, singer, songwriter, or you're just some average old schmo like myself, knowing exactly how your mind works and understanding that, if I have an idea for something, I have a motivation for something, how can I capitalize on that? And how can I make sure that that idea continues to move on after that initial inflection point? Because even for myself, I have sometimes great ideas and it's like, okay, I remember I keep going, but I've got so many other things I have to remember to do, whether it's for the podcast, my full-time job, if I'm going to a concert. Sometimes I get my best ideas in the middle of a mosh pit, which is absolutely hysterical. And I always forget to write them down, but I'm always so present in that moment. By the time the show ends and I'm walking out, I'll still know what the idea is, and then I'll be able to write it down there. But if I'm just like working out or something, I get the idea, oh shoot, that's a good idea. Problem is though, I'm usually doing cardio and then I gotta go, I'm lifting weights or I'm going to the sauna afterwards, and now I'm thinking about other things and the idea goes away. So I should be having I should be working out, having a pen and paper, writing down ideas for stuff, but it's all about knowing how your mind works and on being able to capture those ideas and capture that inspiration and knowing when you have to, when you can remember it and knowing when you have to make sure you save it for later, basically.
Yeah, totally. And it's always the most inconvenient time, isn't it? And it's like for me, it's like right as I'm going to sleep. But it's not that sense of like, like you want to get up and it's like, oh, that's just like you start thinking like, I guess it's like as you're starting to dream and your mind starts to wander and like maybe in your head it just seems better. It's like you're about to say, oh yeah, these are the best ideas that I've ever had or whatever, and then you fall asleep and that's them, they're gone forever. But I think that maybe that is you have to let go to kind of like find the clarity,
Well, just
and
think
that's
about. I'll say, well, just think about this because you're talking about, you got ideas like right before you go to sleep, and for many people, right before they fall asleep, it's their minds are clear. It's their minds aren't thinking about really anything else. Their minds are present to that moment. With me, when it comes to really being able to get those ideas, I always get my best ideas again when I'm in the middle of a mosh pit where I'm at the most present I am ever at because I'm just so focusing on enjoying the moment that's in front of me. Or if I'm in the gym because I'm focused on one thing and one thing only, that's the task at hand. So I'm present in that moment. So the inspiration is able to come through because I am just I'm open to everything else because I'm being present. I don't have all these other distractions coming in and filtering in to potentially take these ideas and have them run amok or block them from ever coming in. So it kind of seems like in those moments where we're able to just be at the most present are the moments that the greatest inspirations come, in whatever creative space or whatever space you might be in. That's even whatever you're working towards, whatever your mindset.
It's interesting that we got onto this because like this is it is in like so many ways like what the next song that we're writing is about. It was the first song that we wrote for the record, and it's about that sort of, it's like laying your cards on the table, expressing that honesty of that like you are a bit lost, you are a bit uncertain with everything, and everything is a bit too much, and everything just kind of like stacks up on top of itself, and like nothing's clear, and it's a lot of the like the whole idea of like the happy days is like is the life that you're living truly making you happy, or are you just going through the day to day, like going through the motions, going through the cycles of like wake up, go to work, do the things that you like, you want to do, what you're prioritizing, what's important in that. And it's like when you really start thinking about it, it gets a little bit too sort of like, like, am I doing that? Because so many people aren't. So many people just like a decision happens and another decision happens, and like you just end up not doing the thing that like when you were 14 years old, you're like, that's what I'm going to do with my life. Or, like even when you're like 18 years old, and it's like, as you start getting into your like mid-20s, early 20s, and like other factors come into play, like real life, like paying bills, like, do you want to have a house? Do you want to have a family? Do you want to like, see your friends? Or do you want to dedicate all of your time to going in a van and going around with like your boys and, getting to experience things that like ordinarily you wouldn't have? And like those sacrifices like come into play, and I think everybody writes about them in some way or another. It's pretty prevalent in pop punk. Not a lot of people tend to write about it in happy pop songs because it's not a particularly like happy subject, but it's like it's what they go through, you know. I know a lot of bands who that is their sort of majority of it is their running commentary is talking about like life on the road. Ours isn't so much that because like we've not been on the road yet. Like we have obviously we went and played shows and stuff last year, but like you know I don't think we've even played like 40 shows yet as a band. We've released a lot of music, but we've only been touring and playing shows for a year, and in that period of time, you know, we toured the UK once, done Europe, done a couple of European and UK shows. We're about to go back out and do another couple of UK shows at the start of next month. I'm really, really looking forward to that because like this is what we're in for. We're in it for playing shows. Like it is the funnest part of it, and like even just in that 1 year, you know, like we played in Cologne at the start of the European run last June, and then we went out again in September, and there was a bunch of people at that show, like enough people to go like, holy shit, we just drove from Edinburgh to Cologne, which is like 1,000 mile drive, and it was absolutely worth it. That's amazing. I love it how you didn't even blink when I said 1,000 mile drive, and it's like for us that's mental. You know, that's crazy.
Yeah, when you said 1,000 miles, because even I'm thinking too, was I went to what festival was it? It was Welcome to Rockville here in the United States. It was I forgot how long that drive was. It might have been close to maybe 1,600 miles from where I started to where we finished. And I'm just like, yeah, that's normal. 1,000 miles. You know what? I've done that before. No big deal.
Yeah, it's crazy, man. It's crazy. Like the scale of the journeys that we have to make. Like I've never been to America. From what I've been told, it's like you need a car just to like
Oh yeah.
to get to all the different places that you're going. Whereas like where I live in Edinburgh, again, like capital city, known all over the world, like I can walk like the entire distance of it, like everywhere. And like it doesn't stop like the city. Like it's just like, you know, you've got your shops, you've got your roads, you've got like the bus, which goes everywhere. Like there's buses all the way around. So like there's you don't even need to own a car. It's pointless because parking's so expensive. So like yeah, it's so funny when people are. I loved that. Like just like anybody else who I would say like, yeah, we drove from Edinburgh to Cologne, 1,000 mile drive, and you're just, you know,
It's like, yep, that happens.
that's cool.
Like it's like, yeah, I've done that before, and it's fine. I mean, I think there was another one where it was I went to a festival in 2021. It was I think that was about maybe 900 miles. I want to say, and it was just like, okay, yeah, we did it. We had some troubles for that one, but it makes sense. But when you were talking about just the inspiration, just especially from the pop punk side of things, it's a lot of those songs tend to have a little more of the emotion too. They're just based off where the emotion of the song is coming from. Especially, you're talking about things that you're thinking about. A lot of the times we go back to, the times when we really got in this music for a lot of us was in those like years between maybe 10 to 18 years old when we really were into music, really got into stuff. And we had those ideas, we had those dreams, we had those wants, we had those feelings like, we're going to go out and do something with our lives. We're going to go out and make sure that we're not going to have, the most basic life you could possibly think of. But then all of a sudden we get into our 20s and we start to fall into certain ideas where all of a sudden, if mindsets change and if you want to go have a family, have kids and just live the kind of like quote unquote normal life, if that's what you want, by all means go for it. If that's what you really want, then you're winning life if you're doing that. But if you're just kind of going along and you have all these wants and desires and I want to go out and try and do this, I want to go out and try and want to do this, but you feel like you have to keep up with certain things, or it's, oh, now I got this responsibility. Oh, now I got a full-time job, or I only get 2 weeks off a year. And they just kind of lose out on that passion. It's just, I don't know what it is, and it's just it kind of gets to be infuriating. But when we listen to pop punk, it's like we hear about those songs about life on the road. We hear about even music as well. We hear about a lot sometimes those trials and tribulations, but it's more real and it's more raw. But at the same time, there's a lot of us that listen to it. It's like, you know what, that lifestyle, and that idea, and that want to just do the things that make us happy still resonates with us and
Totally,
inspires
man.
us to
And I
continue
think
to
that
go
like
forward.
a lot of people don't think enough about the fact that like I'm really guilty of it. Like, when you're irritable and like you're going through the day to day and like you're getting annoyed at other people who you work with or who you're around and things like that. It's or like, even just like random people in the public. Everybody's just trying to get by. And like when people are like managing to get like in what you would see as a way like ahead of you or better than you or whatever it is, it's just like it's not about that. It's just like they got theirs. Be happy for them that the fact that like they're able to progress and like because everybody's going through the shit that like everybody has to go through and like just like having that understanding and just being like we're all actually in it together, and we can all just like accept that, like, unless you're mates with billionaires, like, just like you're all pretty much on the same level, and like just like there doesn't need to be that level of animosity and judgment and things like that. And it's like having that level of like inner reflection is important to have. Not enough people like have enough time to do it. And it would be amazing if everybody could just like give up whatever they had to do like every single day and do what made them happy and like what they loved. But at the end of the day, the world would also stop turning if that happened, So like we just gotta like, yeah, have that mantra more of like everybody is just trying to get by, you know.
That is a good reminder, especially even for all of us too, because you think about it from a band perspective. It's you see those other bands that are doing, they're doing well, that are really hitting off, and it seems like things are going well, but maybe they're just trying to get by at the same time too. Maybe it's just the time that they hit off, and all of a sudden now they're in that positive space. Or maybe it's they're doing better than you, in terms of maybe more people are coming to go and see them. Their streaming numbers are better. Who knows? But who knows what else is going on at the same time too? Maybe they're just trying to find that way to just try and get
Yeah,
by.
I
All
think
of us too.
it's so easy for bands like at the beginning stages of their career to like compare themselves to others because like I found out this ridiculous statistic earlier on in the year that over 50% of the bands or the musicians who have released music on Spotify, which is a pretty reasonable metric to use because it's like the biggest streaming service, over 50% of them have less than 50 monthly listeners. So if you're releasing music and you have more than 50 monthly listeners, then that means that you have more people listening to your music than half of the people in the world who have released music. So that's like a pretty positive statement because a lot of people who are releasing music, like they'll go, like, we've only got like 150 listeners. That's three times more than half of the people who release like ever like who have released music digitally in the last like how long, 10 years, 15 years, however long Spotify's been going for. And it's like that's like a positive metric to look like yeah, you're not going to be doing a million streams a day because like you're not on a major record deal, like you've not got like loads and loads of money going into it. And yeah, you get those like those little blessings, but it's like there's always work that leads up to that, there's always time that leads up to that, and
Mm-hmm.
everybody needs to put in their time. You see a bands who have been going now for like, oh, I mean, like I saw Architects opening for As I Lay Dying at the Garage in Glasgow in 2007 when I was 13 years old. And like they were the first band on. And then there was a band called Himsa and Darkest Hour on after that. And there was like, they were touring, I think it was Nightmares they were touring. And it's like, like tech metal, like not what they are playing right now.
Mm-hmm.
But that's nearly 16 years ago. You know what I mean? And now they're playing like Wembley and stuff like that in the UK. Like that's how long it takes to get to that point. And particularly with alternative music and stuff, like band like Neck Deep as well, like they've been going for 10 years now. It shows like when a band has been going for that long, like Don Broco again, like going since what, like at least 2008, like properly touring. That's again, 15 years of going at it for a long, long time, working at the craft, mastering the craft, touring. And that's what I just remind myself of at the stage that we're at as well, is that like we only started touring last year. We were like effectively in our
Mm-hmm.
first like real year as a band. We're incredibly, incredibly lucky to have the team that we have behind us. We want to work really, really hard to do that. Life gets in the way of that sometimes. Like the past year, I've been able to do the record, try and like get back on track after being away for a month, after being away for pretty much a month doing the record and then going on tour. Like it all added up. On top of that as well, like last year was the first time everybody was outside for like 2 years. So it was like getting used to like seeing people, and like you're just aware of a lot of people like desperately going back into the world that they thought they were never going to get back to, taking on a lot of work and like burning themselves out as a result of it, because it was like, oh, I can do this again, I can go out, I can go on tour, I can record, I can like do like production for whatever. Like seeing so many people just being like all of a sudden towards the end of last year just being like, oh, I'm dead, you know. And
Oh yeah.
it's good. I've really enjoyed the feeling of like going into this year almost of like, it feels like starting from scratch in a way of where we're like, we experienced what it's like to be a band, and now we're going out to present ourselves. Of like, we have a foundation there that people can go back and listen to, of songs that I'm immensely, immensely proud of. Like everything that we've released, I love everything that we've released. There wouldn't be something that we would put out that I've not sat and like worked for like literally days into every single song that we've done. And now that we've got that as like a foundation, I think it was really good for us to work on that and then present something that we're like this defines what the band is now. And we got to do like, I mean, like I don't really know what the situation is about like yeah, I mean, so like I wrote some songs with Mike Green, who is like a really really like yeah, you know Mike Green, so like he's done like a bunch of
Hmm.
people, and so like the title track off our new record, like worked on him with it, worked on him with one of the other songs as well, and like getting to learn how somebody like that writes songs and being on such a level with them, and like also being able to then like I was like rigging in the session. I was the one that was like driving the computer. He just had the guitar and was just like giving me ideas back and forth, and like I gave him. There's this amazing plugin called Listen To, and it was like ideal during COVID because you could put a link at the end, a little plugin at the end of your master chain. It would open a link and it would send a super high quality audio stream with like milliseconds of delay, like anywhere in the world. So you could just do sessions live, and it was absolutely amazing. And yeah, that's just how we done it down in the studio. And just like when somebody like Mike is like, "Oh yeah, yeah, you work really, really quickly. Like this is great," and I was just like, "You're like, yes, like all this time, all the effort, like it's worth it." And like yeah, those songs are you can tell you can tell that we're like they're on another level, and that mantra was also then brought into like some of the other songs as well. So it's a level up. It's undeniably a level up. I'm really really excited to get it into the world. I know I don't sound like immensely excited, but right now it's because it's 1:45 in the morning. But it's
Yeah.
but no, honestly, like it was a labor of love, like in every single way. Like the whole process is like something that like I've done it in so many bands. Like I think it's quite a unique process to a certain degree, but like the self-produced band has definitely become a lot more apparent in the past sort of like 5-10 years, as all the guys who were getting into it in sort of like the late 2000s, like early 2000s into the 2010s, when like things like Cubase and like
Hmm.
Reason and like even Audacity and like Line 6 Pods and like Superior Drummer and all that, like all these guys, they've all learned and like developed their craft with like that as their songwriting tool. And then like five of those guys all meet each other who've got their instrument, and then but they can all play like everything, so like they just meet up and then they do like rock paper scissors for who plays guitar, bass and drums. And then like the guy who sings the best, like that's always apparent, he's like flown in from LA every time, and like he rigs as well, and like that's just how like all these like crazy super groups are made. Like, and like there's so many of those fucking like ridiculous bands, like they're just like you watch them and you're just like fuck off, like like
Oh.
Periphery, you know what I mean? Like you just watch them and you're just like, yeah, absolutely sensational. Like fuck off, like it's like recorded, produced, mixed, mastered by the band, and you're just like, yeah, sounds better than anything I've ever heard in my entire life. Love it. Like I will never be that good. Thanks for that.
Just
It's
like with
great.
Periphery, just the big old mix and big old concoction of just everything. Just yep, they found the five
Mm.
guys, six guys that just work out. That just everything flows together, and they can do everything themselves, but they're just masters of their craft, so it absolutely works.
Yeah, man.
However, when it comes to you and Happy Days, though, just given the history of the band and the fact that you guys started when no one could go outside, no live shows are really happening. Not like it put you guys in such a different and unique position compared to every other artist that was out there. Because think about it, what artist was starting a band during the middle of a pandemic when the concept of live music was non-existent? Like we didn't know when it was going to come back. We thought it was going to come
I
back to like
bet
2022. Like
I bet there was a lot of people who had an idea of starting a band, and I bet 99.9% of them didn't have to. But everyone was like, now's the time. This is when we're going to start the band. We can do it on Zoom. I've got a laptop and GarageBand, like, but I think I think that the intention was to start the band before it all happened, and then like I played in another band, and like that like was falling to pieces. We were touring for like a few years and that, and like by that point I'd already made the sacrifices that it was like, well, this is what I'm going to do for like the rest of my life. I don't want to lose this life. This is a unique experience. I'm not done with it yet. So it was like, right, how quickly can I work on it to get back to that? And it took, like just over 2 years, but it was very, very much worth it. And that's the thing. Like so many people, I think, rush it, and we were going to rush it, and COVID stopped us from rushing it. And that was the best thing that could have happened for us, because it was like, right, let's refine the product. Let's like
Yeah.
make sure that it's exactly what we want it to be. And like songs that were initially just like demo ideas, they became the first singles. And then songs that we were like, we're maybe not going to use that song, like they were like, again, like some of the biggest songs that we've released. And yeah, it was just about like, it gave us an opportunity to master the craft. And then there was an opportunity as well, because we were like we went and recorded a music video up in Dundee, which is like 100 miles away from Edinburgh. So we were like, the lockdown rules were relatively lenient. We were like, right, it's work now. Like we're going to work. If anybody
Mhm.
says like we're doing this as work, and like we can bear the consequences of it. We're not interacting with anybody that's vulnerable. So like we can do this. And we went and done our first music video. But at this point, we'd also already done another one. We recorded some stuff at home, and I sent it to my mate in Canada, a guy called Miguel, who is Films. He's done music videos for like Knuckle Puck and Seaway, and he's just a fucking creative genius. And I love the guy so much. He's just like an absolute legend. And he was doing a couple of music videos like either side of this weekend, where he had this really, really good camera. And I mentioned to him, it'd be great if we could do something like involving us, but like it's you like shooting something. And he was like, bro, I've got this camera, so I don't need to pay for the rental. I just need you to like, I need you to pay this actress, and then I'll set up this set, and we'll do a one-shot video. So you guys just like play the video, and then we'll put it on a TV. And then he reversed that. He reversed the playthrough, and then she like fucked up this like garage with loads of shit. And then he reversed it. So it's like her like fixing the room together, and we were playing straight on the TV. Super simple idea. And we're like, cool, music video one done, and then done another one. And then we realized like we're sitting here with stuff that people can watch. Nobody is releasing anything.
Mhm.
So everyone will pay attention. And that was the main reason why we done it in the way that we did. And I think it definitely played to our benefit, because like by February of 2021, like the lockdown again was like really, really like tight. But in the November period, we recorded like 3 music videos. Like recorded like a green screen video, like a backdrop video, and something else. And we just like got as much in as we could, and just like backlogged it and like gathered as many skills as we could to be able to do this stuff ourselves, because we had to do it ourselves, because like we weren't allowed to go and do it. And it also like we didn't have the budget for it. Like we were an unsigned
Mhm.
band just starting out. We weren't working a lot. Like there was no work. The world was shut down. And then yeah, 4 songs in, we heard from Thriller. That was how quick the process was. And like they heard Bad Taste on a Spotify radio. So like that's how important it is to release your music on Spotify. They got us our record deal just from the algorithm by chance. But yeah, it was we were one of the few bands releasing music. It stood out. There was, even though it was like home recorded and stuff, I still think it sounded incredible. All the guys who worked on the mixing were like Jim and Seb, like just absolutely killed it. They made it sound huge, and it was recorded in a bedroom and in an old like council house that is our studio. Like our studio is right on a main road, and it used to be hourly band practice rooms. And my old band used to record like band practice there back in the day, and it would have like the shittest Marshall half stack in the corner and like the broken Pearl drum kit. And we now have like the room that we used to practice in for like £10 an hour. We have that as our like our room, and we have 24-hour access to it. And even though there's no windows, it still feels very cozy and comfortable when you're in it for like 10 hours or 16 hours writing a song.
Yeah, and it just kind of brings that familiarity to it. But kind of just going back to what you had said when it came to the COVID coming through and kind of forcing you guys to slow down and not rush yourselves to try and become just rush to be the best that you possibly rush to get all this stuff out. It gave you guys this chance to pull back and really refine your skills, refine your song, refine everything so that when you were ready to release it, it would stand out, especially as everyone was still, even in the whole entire music industry, recording stuff from home and trying to find ways to, if they hadn't recorded new music already, to how can we get more new music out to the world, especially at a time where we were just all waiting for stuff. So
Yeah.
when you were able to create that stuff and really put it out there and have it be visually appealing, especially from a music video sense, of course it's going to end up being something where you guys took the time, you guys made sure it was right, and when it came to growing as a band, especially getting your start during that time, it allowed you guys to really understand how each other works and mesh, so that by the time that fourth song came out and Thriller ended up finding it on a random Spotify playlist, and then end up, okay, now we're interested, we want to sign you guys, especially as I've seen all the Thriller bands that have come through. I'm just like, this just keeps getting better and better, and I'm always curious. It's like I'm trying to figure out, especially with every single band that I've been able to interview from Thriller, I know there's a commonality in there in what they're seeing. I just can't put my finger on it yet, but understanding
totally. I know exactly what you mean, isn't it? It's like everybody sounds different, but they're all the same kind of vibe. There's like an energy about it, or like, we're the smallest band by like, some degree. Like, we're fortunate enough to be on the same level as some like really, really sick big artists. Like The Word Alive and that coming onto it is so sick. And like, yeah, there's it's that emotion. It's what we're talking about. It's the vibe. It's what it makes you feel. Like, all of them kind of make you feel the same thing, don't they?
They don't make you, I don't think they make you feel the same thing, but there's a certain positivity that gets felt through there. Because I'm taking a look at the ones, like you said, with The Word Alive. The Word Alive is probably the most well-known band that's currently on Thriller's roster, as I have pulled it up for this specific reason. But you listen to The Word Alive and you feel some sort of positivity from the scene a little bit a little bit more times in the past. Rain City Drive is on there as well, and just their style of music, there is some interesting kind of positivity with even some of the sadder stuff they do. Outline and Color can bring the more of the intensity, but I don't know, there's a draw there.
But then you've also got a Void as well, because a Void are just like, you just can't help but just be like, you're totally stoked as soon as you start listening to them. They're so fucking sick.
I was gonna end with a Void, because I was gonna do you guys and Catch Your Breath, and I was gonna end with a Void, because with a Void, I describe it as, it's literally like if you just it's like if you're going to a show, it's like the energy you get from like that, like snorting cocaine. It's like, I'm ready to go do this shit. A Void just brings like, it's so positive, but it's such this intensely happy energy that when you get to go and hear their music and then see them live, I don't know how to describe it outside of like, I mean, there's many ways to describe it, but it's just so cool. But
they had that, I think it was like the Sirius FM live video thing. And I watched that a good few times, like full volume in our studio, like blasting it. Just like, these guys absolutely bang, like just so heavy. Like, I've got like a really specific taste when it comes to heavy music, and like when it's got singing in it, like, you know exactly what I mean when it's like, there's like sick stuff, and then there's like this. I don't even mean it in a negative way, because it's just like, it's not my taste. It's not that I don't think it's bad, but it's like the Rise Records kind of like really like in between, like, whoa, like, and I think that there needs to be like the Avoid vocals are like, they're really like impassioned, and like they're there and they go with it. It's like Architects as well, it's like it's very powerful vocals. It's not just like 1 minute we've got like, like demons, like and then the next minute it's just like, yeah. I was just like, nah, it's like, it's too much of a contrast. Like, there's in my mind, like, when you're writing songs, there's like these invisible rules that sort of like, you understand them when you're writing them. Like, the same band can write different kinds of songs, and those rules like sort of like, therefore make them sound like the same band, even though there's like different kind of sounds going on with it, you know what I mean? And like even a band as weird as like Enter Shikari, who, they introduce, we abuse music's worthless boundaries and all that. Like, I think that's cool, but there's always something that makes it sound like an Enter Shikari song, and like more often than not, it's like a voice or like this style of guitar playing and stuff like that. But the voice usually does always tie it together. But like, I suppose that's a bad example, because they could literally like release anything, and you'd be like, yeah, cool. Like, that's one of that's a song you guys would write. It's bad example.
Yeah, it's like, if you're looking if you're looking for a good example of a band where it's like the voice is not like the signature style when you think of them. I mean, I'm gonna be going a little bit older than what we're used to, but I mean, it absolutely fits. Van Halen. You think
Yeah,
about, I mean,
totally.
they worked with David Lee Roth, they worked with Sammy Hagar very well for both of them, but it's, well, what was the thing you remember? You remember Eddie Van Halen's guitar tone. You remember that was such a signature. That was the band's signature, was
Yeah,
how he played that guitar.
totally, totally. I mean, like, how many good instances have there been of bands who, when they lose their singer, they like they continue on in like the same way that they were. Like,
It's
you don't
not
want to be
easy.
you don't want to be tight in like the analyzing of it, but like a band like of Mice and Men, you
Hmm.
know what I mean? Like their singer leaves, like they're still going strong as a band. Like fair fucks, you know. It's pretty interesting. Like they were one of my favorite bands when I was growing up. Like when I was like sort of like I think it was like 16 when they started. And I remember really, really liking that first album, like played it on guitar all the time. I used to play in metal bands. Like I was in like metalcore bands when I was like between like 16 and like 22. That was my goal. And yeah, Mice and Men were like one of the bands that I really liked and like would absolutely rip off, you know, like all the time, like everyone done. Because everyone fucking sounded exactly the same at that point anyway. But like, you know,
Yep.
like one guy starts a new band and then like as it ended up turning out, it gave like so many people like different music careers in different ways. But then like the initial guys who are in it, there's like what, two guys from the semi-original lineup. And then it's just it's where you see how much of it is just like a business because like there's money making potential there. So they go out, but it's like, you know, if it was in the name of art, it would be like, right, well now it's time to like close this one down
Yeah.
and like start something fresh, you know what I mean? And I think that like I don't think there's any reason to be scared of that. Like I think that you always are what you were, but like, you know, go find something that's like who you are now as well. You know what I mean? Like it's so many bands have done that.
Oh yeah, and just,
So many bands didn't need to do it. Some people would disagree. Like, you know, like a band like Guns N' Roses going out there and still playing gigs when Axl Rose literally sounds like he's dying on stage. And then like, you know, but then you got Metallica who go out there and like I still think that they fucking rock. You know, like I think that they're really, really good. We were at the studio the other night and we were watching some what's his name again? The American radio DJ does all the dodgy interviews. You know, like he's always dead pushy. He's got the sunglasses
oh,
on all the time.
Howard Stern.
Howard Stern, that's him. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And he got he had bands play live on it, but like it's super transparent. It's not like it doesn't feel like super mixed. It's pretty much like, you know, they've got all the mics on, like no fucking mixing really going on whatsoever. And then it just gets broadcast out as if it was like the microphone that you're talking into right now. And we watched the Chili's and they were like fine, bit dry, not really like a lot going on. Like they were playing Under the Bridge as well, so it was like kind of sluggish and slow. And then we watched Green Day, you know, like the start of the journey, and it was American Idiot that we watched, and it sounded okay. But then we watched Metallica, and they were doing puppets, full, like not like the shortened down version, like the full version of puppets live on the radio. And like just from the get go, just like Lars Ulrich playing the drums, it was just like they are the best. They're the best at what they do. Like every time somebody says to me, "Who's your favorite band?" and it's like I don't even like them for the songs. I don't even know that many songs, but just for how good as a band they are. Who do I think the best band ever are is Metallica, definitely.
I mean, that says it, but it also kind of speaks to kind of something I want to go back to. It was kind of like, again, going back to the whole entire thing with Thriller Records with all the bands that are on there. It's, I don't know what it is, but it's just when you listen to those bands, and especially the bands that are continuing to stay so prominent, and it's even that their music, even if they're like doing a lot of stuff that you would kind of expect them to do, the ones that continue to just keep building and building, there's some sort of freshness that is there where it just keeps wanting you to come back for more, where you know what you're going to get, but I'm also curious to see what else is going to be coming out in the next time as well.
Mm.
Like with Metallica, it's, yeah, they're all like, they sound good. They're always really tight, except for maybe the Saint Anger snare. Right? That's always what I'm going to pull out as like a little
Mate,
odd.
that album is incredible. Let's not let one tiny thing hold it back. It's a tiny little thing, you know. It's just the snare sound. Like Frantic is an unbelievable tune. Unbelievable tune.
I couldn't help myself. I had to bring that up, but kind of just think about some of the other bands too. It's like as they continue to, even if they have their own craft and they have their style honed in, there's always this added freshness of, what might be able to come next is what it gives them that longevity. Look at Bring Me the Horizon. There's still that freshness there.
That was the band that I was going to bring up in response to what you're saying there. 100%. Like every single album is a progression from the last one. You can link all the albums together, but when you take like, Count Your Blessings and then put it against That's the Spirit, it's like, that's mental that's the same band. You can go on the journey. Like some people, obviously, if you start at like the most recent and work your way back, there's a very obvious point where they're going to go, I'm out. And that's that's obvious. And like, again, it's like understanding longevity to your career. It's understanding the progression of your career as well. It's like looking back on these massive, massive bands, like, Metallica, Guns N' Roses and all that. Like, there is still a beginning point to all these bands' careers. Like, there's very few bands that just like immediately, it's just like, right, cool, we wrote an album, now we're playing arenas. Like, that's a very rare occurrence. And like, it's exactly what we're talking about. It takes time for these bands to do it. The reason that these bands are so big and able to do it is because they've been doing it for so long that it like the snowball effect of like continually touring, going out, releasing music, it will always add to that mass.
Yeah.
Like, if it's even if it isn't that good, because it's always like but that's like me subjectively thinking of like bands who have done that. Like, one of my favorite bands growing up was Biffy Clyro. I do not really listen to a lot of Biffy Clyro albums anymore because it's just not my thing. But anytime I listen to the records that came out, like Puzzle came out in 2007, I saw them at the Barrowlands on the Puzzle tour when I was like 13 years old, like squashed up at the front of the venue. And like, it's like, those are like life-changing moments, but like they're not in my day-to-day anymore, like that. Like, everybody moves on and stuff like that. But like that will always be important to me. But their new stuff will never have that kind of importance to me. You know what I mean? I did hear apparently though that when you're like, as a guy between the ages of like 13 and 14, the music that you listen to, if music is the thing that like gets you, because some people it doesn't, but if music is the thing that get you, whatever you listen to there has the same like addictive qualities that cocaine has. It's like the same receptors in your brain. So when you get it, it gives you that feeling. And when you listen to it, it gives you that buzz. And 100%, like, you listen to songs, like when I'm at work, like some people will put on songs that I've not heard in ages because you just don't think about it. It's like the paralysis of choice. Like, you go on Spotify, I can listen to any song ever. I can't think of a single one. Like, it's somebody puts it on and then all of a sudden, every single word, even though it's been like, 10, 15 years since you've heard the song, like it stays with you. Like, everybody moves along with that on that journey. Everybody stays in certain places. Some people go with it if they like love the artist and the vibe is what they're about. And like, I think that's when you've made it, when it's like, I liked your first EP and you're like on your fifth album, you're like, yeah, cool, nice. It's like, you've changed, man. It's like, awesome. Like, we progressed, we done something. Like, yeah. I guess it needs to go hand in hand though. If it's like, when you released your first album and if you were playing in an arena and then you're releasing your fifth and you're playing at like a small club, maybe it's like, oh, we changed. Should have went back to it. But it's always pretty good.
I kind of just had a revelation when you were talking about that, and it finally clicks to me why I think like a lot of these bands are on Thriller Records, including yourself, why there's a connection to them and why I'm stuck on them. And it was something that you said when you're talking about, especially from guys, it's like you said between 13 and 14, it's the bands that listen to music that has an addictive quality. And I'm thinking back to, okay, what music did I listen to when I was 13, 14? What music do I listen to now? The music I listened to when I was 13, 14, like I was big on like Disturbed, Linkin Park. So those are influencing me, but I don't listen to them that much on my day-to-day. There's one band I continue to listen to on my day-to-day that I loved when I was 13 or 14. It's on my shirt. It's Rise Against. Now I listen to a shit ton of metalcore too, but that's always continued to be there. But there's an evolution that happened there where if someone's going to go and play Indestructible by Disturbed, or if I'm going to get to go to see Hollywood Undead perform live and they're going to play Coming In Hot, I'm going to have a fucking blast and enjoy every bit of it. I'm still going to I might not listen to them as much as I used to, but there's still that feeling of like, I love listening to this stuff, but maybe I'm just not into them as much anymore. I listen to more of the metalcore stuff that's coming out now. Like I love Bring Me the Horizon. I'm super big into like Ice Nine Kills, We Came as Romans. But there is something I've kind of just picked up on where when I'm thinking about the bands from Thriller, when I'm thinking about Avoid, Catch Your Breath, you guys and Happy Days, when I'm thinking about Outline and Color, Rain City Drive, and The Word Alive, and I'm using those six as the example. What I'm thinking about there is, what is something that is just like that connectivity that brings to the point where you guys are just like fantastic bands, but there's also this feeling of like longevity that's going to happen there. And there's this a quality in the music where us that have gone past that 13 to 14-year-old range, we know what it's like to grow with certain bands, and bands that we like, bands we don't like, kind of just, again, or bands we don't aren't into as much anymore. But there's a connectivity there where we can get that feeling of, we get a little bit of that taste of what it was like to be 13 or 14 when we first hear Happy, as we get that feeling of like, okay, it's fresh, but it kind of has this little bit of a nostalgic kick to it, back to like that 2000s pop punk that we might like avoid. We go back to like, what we feel like, if we're just going absolutely ape crazy, maybe doing the stupidest shit we ever did with all the energy in the world. It kind of gives a little bit of a kickback to that, but it's still so fresh to the point where we enjoy that, but we're going to be along with these bands for the long term. And it just like struck a chord with me where I'm like, and it just, for all of us that are past that age, but for those of us that might be at that age, for people that are at that 13, 14, 15, 16-year-old age, listening to these bands, they have that feeling of that energy, that passion, that connectivity, to the point where they can listen to it and have that moment where it's like, now these bands are going to be the ones that they connect with, where maybe 10 years down the line, 12 years down the line, they might like the first couple albums or first couple EPs, whatever it is, but then they might, I'm not as into it as much anymore. But when you hear something like you guys, all of a sudden, maybe in 12, 15 years, there's a kid that's 13 years old, he'll be 28 in 15 years, kind of just sitting around at work, and all of a sudden Cool Blue comes on in his headphones, and all of a sudden everything just starts coming back. And for those couple of minutes, even if he's having the worst day, this immense feeling of positivity and happiness is coming back, because you remember is just how good the band that he loved at some point in time was and still is, even if he's not as connected to them anymore.
It definitely is like a load of memories. Like the old band that I was in, we didn't do anything crazy. We released like but before I was like in the band, 2 EPs, and then by the time I was in the band, we'd done an album together. And like it's so funny, like when it's like every now and again someone will be like, "Oh, were you in that band?" I was like, "Yeah, yeah." And then like they sing one of your songs at you and like laugh about it and that. And it's just like, yeah, that's good stuff. Like that's what it's about. And like you associate it with like that was that summer in 2019. Like for like we felt like rock stars, and we got to like travel for like 2 months. And like it's so funny when you get to do it and you get to go out, and like in particular the UK and like European scene, is that so many people have this idea that it's like, you got to break into this like big circuit of people, and like how do you tap into them all? Everyone knows everyone. They're all at the same shows. They all travel to the same shows. They all like, there's people who get their dads to drive like them and like two of their friends to like a show 500 miles away. And then the dad goes and gets like, a burger and a cup of coffee, and then drives them back after the show. And like, we would chat to like these parents like after shows, but they're standing like a wee bit away, and like they would say that. They'd be like, "Your dad's here." And I'd be like, "Yo, how's it going?" Like, "Yeah, yeah, how you doing?" Like, give the dad a t-shirt, and that kid's just waiting there for 5 hours for the show. And he's just like, "You're a legend, man. That's awesome." And they just like, they're always just like, in some cases you're in like super rural parts of like Germany, and these guys don't speak any English, and we've got like the strongest Scottish accent, like the hardest accent ever, and they're just like, "Cool, rock," and it's just like, yes, like love it. And it's just like so many of those really fun experiences. Like it's amazing. It's amazing. We went on the craziest thing that we done was we went on a 2 week tour. It was like 2 3 weeks something like that, through all of Europe with Millencolin. Do you know Millencolin?
Again, I've heard the name. I've probably heard one or two songs I've in the
So
past, but nothing's
they're
resonated in my
they're
head.
they're the generation before us, man. They're the band that like inspired the early 2000s pop punk. You know what I mean? Like My Chemical Romance opened for them back in the day, and they were on Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 2. And it was just like this completely random opportunity for us to get to go out with this band who have been there and done it, get like thousands of people come to their shows, and they were just like, "Yeah, yeah, we like this band, you can come out and do that." And then getting to go see that, just like that crazy experience of like, this is like punk rock shows that are 40-year-old guys still at it, still like like the whole way through the show, people are having a little mosh. But when that Tony Hawk song came on, man, every single night it was like the energy was at like 7 8 like the whole through the show. And then all of a sudden it's at 100, like the roof is blown off, like absolutely like mad energy. And just like getting to see that and know that like if you give it like enough, you can go and you can go do it. It's like it makes it worthwhile. It definitely makes it worthwhile because like we got to talk to them and like they still play in the band. They go on tour for a couple of months of the year, but all of them have like businesses and
Mm-hmm.
families and other jobs because it's like life goes on, and it's like being able to like intertwine the two of them together. That's like that's the stage that we're at in our lives right now. You know, like we can't dedicate every single second to it at the moment because we have like real lives that we want to do. We give everything that we can. It's our dream. It's what we want to be doing. We want to be going out and playing shows and traveling and you know writing music and doing what we're doing right now. Like, you know, I'm in an Airbnb in the middle of England just now. Like it's this is what it's about, you know, like it's awesome. Um I'm excited to go on that journey of like, you know, in 10, 15 years time, like where did it go, you know?
Oh
And
yeah.
then if somebody does go, you know, like I can't this reminded me of when I was like such and such years old and I'm now this. Like if I read that comment at some point in my life, I'll be like, sick. You know,
Yeah.
it's
Oh
it's
yeah.
already enough where it's already like absolutely mental to me seeing people who like I remember writing these songs like in my house and people are like singing along to them and like you know 1,000 miles away from my house and like people are covering them on bass in Japan and like yeah and it's just like it's crazy. It's absolutely crazy. It's so different releasing music now as to what it was like when all the people who we look up to did. It's so connected, like everything. It's a bit like it's intimidating, you know. It's intimidating to just see how it's like you give it out and it's not yours anymore. It's everyone's.
Yeah, it doesn't have that slower release process based on the fact that you put it out online and everyone's able to access it at any given moment.
Mm.
However, it's that connectivity that can make those things just magical. Because again,
No, absolutely,
if
yeah.
you're playing a live show and all of a sudden the energy is everyone's at like a 7 or an 8, and all of a sudden that one song that everyone knows, whether you're 40 years old or whether you're 15, and all of a sudden everyone's into it. I mean, that's a moment in time where
Mm.
you're never going to forget what happened when all of a sudden you
Totally,
saw some
man.
15-year-olds and some 40-year-olds go at the pit with each other at the exact same time, and everyone was overly happy. Like,
I can genuinely still remember those moments from like 15 years ago, being like 13 years old in the pit for like Enter Shikari and like they played So You're Not a Winner. You know what I mean? And like everyone, the entire room was a circle pit. And I remember just standing in the middle, being like, I'm gonna die. I am like, you know, I'm 13 years old. Like there's just these big huge dudes. I was just like, yeah, everyone waiting to do the fucking claps, you know, and like I still remember it clear as day. And like, yeah, that is I think that's I don't know what it is that like when you're like going to play a show and like people come off and go like you're like oh yeah that was amazing but like when you watch a band and particularly from like the side of the stage and you can really like feel the energy of a show like that where there's hundreds of people screaming that like their song lyrics back to them it's amazing to see. It's amazing to see like the way that people like when you're at a band's last show and you see people like pouring tears, like pouring tears, and like the band are pouring tears, and like you feel the emotions as well because you're like, yeah, these guys have made the same sacrifices as I have throughout my whole life, and that as well. Like it's such an emotional journey being in a band. All of it's emotional. Like it's all about these big emotional guys going out and writing emotional songs with each other. You know, it's funny.
yeah, and kind of
It's
just
really really funny.
bring it all the way back to kind of what we started talking about originally with songwriting. We're talking about connecting that emotion there, and you figuring out
Mm,
listening to music, listening to whatever demos you're working on, listening to different guitar riffs, and listening to different patterns, and just how am I going to put these emotions there? How does it sound like? How what might be get me inspired by? I mean, you're seeing that connectivity, especially when people are at those live shows, and like I said, on those some bands when they're playing their farewell shows, and you see people that have like they've loved the band for years. They've listened to the band consistently, but they've never maybe have even met the band before in real life. They're not connected to
mm,
people. You're always still gonna have the music recorded, but you feel such a passion to it. You feel such a connectivity to it where it's like that you're just letting it all out at that same point in time. You're so
mm,
connected emotionally. So even in live shows, maybe it's like I think about the first time I like after COVID going down to Chicago to see Rise Against for the first time since COVID. I was at a buddy's bachelor party and I left it early because I'm like, no, I bought tickets for this. I'm going down to the show. was happy as all hell to be there. All of a sudden, I'm waiting, just watching. I'm in the middle of the pit having a blast rise against on stage. And I'm seeing 15-year-olds in the pit. I'm like, this is cool. You know, I'm seeing people that are like my age when I got into this stuff. They're in the pit with me as well. And then I see some 40 and 50-year-old guys jump in there like they had been doing when they were my age, when the band first had started. I'm like, this is really like, this is awesome. It's so like emotionally connected. And when they end the set too, it's just they're playing the Savior. I'm just feeling it. And there's nothing better in that moment when you're so emotionally in sync with a band at the same time as well, where you're feeling every emotion they're feeling on stage. You're just that trade is just keeps happening. And those are the moments at live shows where when a band is giving it their all and you can feel it and you're giving your all to them and it's just that connectivity is there. You remember those moments from the moment it happens until the day you're no longer here with us.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. And like, I think everyone's just chasing those moments in some way or another. Like that feeling of like it's where else do you get it? Like where else do you actually get it than when you're in like a room of like thousands of people? I remember when I was younger, I saw the Rolling Stones, and like I think the crowd capacity was like 80,000 people or something like that. And when they played Paint It Black, everybody just like was humming the that is just is tribal. It's so like it's just that you feel it, and you're just like you're there and you're like part of it, and like you're going with the rhythm of
Yeah.
it. You know, it's like the beating on the chest thing, and it's like you're just like you're you're in it. You
Oh
know what I
yeah.
mean? And it's like when everybody's in it together, it's like just an energy there, and like that feeling as well. Like I don't know if you've heard of the venue, the Barrowlands in Glasgow, but like apparently it's known as the second best music venue in the world, next to Madison Square Garden. And the floor is like a trampoline. So when you've got like it's like it just feels like that. So when you've got like 2,000 people on it, it just feels like it's bouncing and everybody's bouncing at the same time. And like I remember so many gigs being in there and just being in the middle of that pit and the crush and like everybody's just like, you know, moving from side to side. Like your feet aren't on the ground. Like it's so mental, it's so unsafe, but like everybody's like, you know, there like looking out for each other. It's like it's so funny how it was almost like there was a period of time where gigs were getting so crazy. As far as I was aware, I remember it being like they were just getting crazier and crazier and crazier. And it was like the mantra of the shows was like, you know, like that was when it really became like pick everybody back up, you know, like don't fucking like let people die, don't let people like get trampled on. I guess it's always been there, but like I just remember shows being gentler and then just all of a sudden getting really, really crazy. It was just like at the advent of like the bell on a ride cymbal and like a china or something like that. You know, it's just like look after each other.
Oh man, yeah. I know I gotta go to that venue, man. Holy shit, there's gonna be I just feel like it's gonna bounce. That is nuts. But
Yeah,
so
if
you're
you ever
talking
come to
about.
Scotland, do it around the time where you can get to a gig at the Barrowlands. That'll be
I'm
a life
going to.
changer.
Oh, I'm going to. But just the one last thing was when you brought up the whole entire thing with Rolling Stones, Paint It Black, and everyone humming. And it's like, it's those moments and those moments where everyone is connected. You don't forget those. And I will say this to anyone, if you're trying to like, okay, what does that moment actually feel like? If you want to see what that moment feels like, and I've only ever found one recorded video that actually can show this. And I'm going to go back to Bring Me the Rise once again, because they did it. They're
Mm.
live at Royal Albert Hall. Watch the video they do for Shadow Moses. Because when they
Mm.
hit the bridge, the entire orchestra, the entire hall, everybody that's in there. I think the only person that does not scream out, "This is Semper Eternal," with all these instrumentals quiet, the only person that doesn't say anything is Ollie. Everyone
Mm.
else takes it and you can feel it, even if you're just watching on your phone. Like,
Yeah, totally,
those
man.
moments are ridiculous to have. And going forward, I mean, you guys are still, you've had like what, one run really through the UK and through Europe. But the feeling of your songs, like there's those connectivity points there. You guys
Mm.
have it. Like you guys have that fresh feeling that's gonna hit on so many different ideas and so many different people.
I
When
really hope so, man.
it's
Like
gonna hit. It's gonna hit.
I do feel there's so much potential in it. Like we've worked really, really hard on it. I'd love to know what people think, and I think that it's like its intention is to make you feel good when you listen to it. It's not to make it's like the intention is like more than anything. It's like the reason I listen to music. I'm not sitting like really focusing on like a deep philosophical meaning on the lyrics. Like every single song that I'm listening to, you know, sometimes I just want to listen to a song the melody's catchy and it gets stuck in my head, and the beat's really cool, and then I'm just like, oh, that sounds great. When I turn it up loud, it's got really bassy, you know. Like sometimes that's what it comes down to. But then at the other points, it's like you can dive deep into it, and you can find a meaning, you can find a purpose in the song, and you can find something that resonates with you. I think they're all like super relatable talking points. It's just like it's songs about how what I've went through in my life. It's songs about how I feel. I don't feel as though there's like really like a story or anything going on. It's just like it's all about a feeling. It's about the emotion. It's about like the ride of life. You know, it's yeah. Anyone can resonate.
Yeah, even like I'm going to a wedding this weekend for or the weekend after we shoot this for my cousin. I might listen to Cool Blue all the way down there and just start to like feel good about it. Just like, you know what? Feeling good today. Just gonna have some good times.
Nice.
Like I'm
Well,
even like playing
you'll have Faded Out as well, man. And
I'll have
my favorite comment that I got about that song was from Alex from Rome. Alex Adam. There's like 9 Alexes in that band. He was listening to the start of it, and then he was just like, I feel like I'm at a spa. I was like, amazing, that's great. So you've got that to look forward to.
I got that to look forward to. Just vibing, having a good time, and all of a sudden, right away, I'm like, I feel like I'm in a spa right now. This is nice.
Yeah,
this is really nice.
Blast it in the sauna, you know.
Oh, in the sauna? Oh my god, I'll do that on Friday when it comes out, because I'll go to the gym and I'll blast it in the sun, and all the old guys will probably be like, "What the heck are you doing in there?" And be like, "I'm having a good time, man. Trust me."
They'll be on it as well, man. They'll be on it as well. They'll just feel the energy.
Have them feel the energy. Well, Luke, as we bring this podcast to its conclusion, one thing I'd like to do is give my guest, which is you in this chance, a chance to say whatever you want to say, plug whatever you want to plug, promote whatever you want to promote at the end of the podcast. So, Luke, the floor is yours.
I'd love to be like cool enough and to just be like, you know, like just like we're all just in it together. But you know, like go listen to Happy Days, listen to what we've got. I think that there's something for everybody in what we're releasing. We're in the middle of releasing what is our best music, and I'm really, really proud of it. I hope that if you find something in it, that you reach out and let us know, and hopefully we get to come by anywhere and everywhere to play a show. And if we do, come and see us. Mosh in the pit. And look after each other, you know.
Look after each other. All right. Well, now it's time for me to end this podcast with 3 things. So first things first, like Luke said, the band is releasing what is like their best music, but I'm going to change it and say their best music so far, because there's a long career ahead for Happy Daze, and you're going to want to be a part of it too, especially making sure you listen to Faded, which will be out by the time this podcast releases, and to listen to everything else that Happy Daze has to offer. Plus, you're going to be ready for when they go out and play on the road, and they're coming to an area near you. So what are you going to do? You're going to go to the description of the podcast down below right now, whether you're on Spotify, podcast, or YouTube, or whatever it is. And it's going to say find Happy Daze online. There's going to be labels for everywhere you can find them, social media wise, YouTube, where you can stream music, buy music, download music, buy some merch, buy concert tickets, all that stuff. Then there's also going to be labels there as well, or on those labels. Then there's going to be links. The links are going to take you right to that place. So all you have to do is click the link, follow, share, subscribe, buy, listen, stream, whatever it is. That's how you stay in touch with the band. I got you all the way there. All you have to do is click the link and hit the like button, and you are all set. Now it is time for number 2. So Luke, whenever guests on the podcast, I tend to make a certain promise as a way to say thank you for being on the podcast, and I like to continue to support the band in any way that I possibly can. And everyone I've pretty much ever had in the podcast has hit on this promise, and every Thriller Records band has also hit on this part of the podcast. You, my friend, are continuing this trend, so it's not a promise of if. If implies this might not happen, so fuck that. I say when. When implies this is going to happen. We just don't have a date or time yet. So when I see Happy Daze perform live for the first time, whether it's over here in the US by me or whether I finally get to go back over to Europe and just start going around all these different countries and seeing all these different bands every single night for like 3 weeks, whatever it is, I will look for you. I will find you. And the first round's on me.
Oh, man. Absolutely, and the second one's on us, 100%, and the third and the fourth and the fifth and sixth and seventh, all of them.
We'll just keep going back and forth, and we'll have a blast with it. Awesome. So now it's time for number 3, and Luke, I don't like to end this podcast by saying goodbye. Goodbye is way too final, and I made a promise to you that I'm going to see you live at some point. The first round's going to be on me. On top of that, is this the only time I ever want to have you and Happy Daze on the podcast? The answer to that is no. I'd love to have you back on in the future once again. Possibly next year to kind of take a look and see what the hell all happened in 2023. And
yeah, let's see what happened. Yeah, that sounds great.
Yeah, we'll do it. We could just do like a yearly thing. It's like, okay, what happened with Happy Days the past year? Well, we'll just keep looking. We'll look forward. We'll just keep having these all these updates. I love doing that with bands, and I think we just got another one right here with you guys. So
100%,
happy
man.
about
100%.
that. Well, Luke, then as we bring this podcast to a conclusion, saying goodbye is not the way to go about it. I'm gonna say, I'll see you later.
I'll see you soon, dude. Thank you so much. Good to speak to you.
Woo! Well, folks, this is my interview with Luke from the band Happy Daze out of Edinburgh, Scotland, the United Kingdom. And now it is time for Kevin's final thought. Where do I actually start with a final thought for this one? This one was ridiculous. First, if I want to thank Luke for even coming on the podcast. We record this podcast. We started at midnight local time for him when we record this. That was 6 p.m. for me. So that was something when it came to just, okay, I love the dedication. I want to thank him for that. But really what it comes down to with this podcast, that my final thought is, just when we were talking about music, just his ideas around there, just wanting to connect with people, talking about the emotion, the way that he connects emotion with music with his, and then hearing it's, how his music has impacted maybe some people, but also how music from his past has impacted him. Here we talk about Of Mice and Men, the Rolling Stones Painted Black thing. We were talking about Bring Me the Horizon, talking about Metallica, just hearing the connectivity there and related to his music. Again, go back to the story you told about where, I can't remember the band's name, but it was the one from Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 2, that they were, everyone at the show from ages like 45 to 15, even though I went in reverse order on that one, we're just enjoying the music. And then when the Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 2 song came on, the energy just went absolutely nuts. That's what I like about Happy Days, because they bring that positivity, that connection to their music, even with that like 2000s pop punk influence, but they have this like modern feel to it where it sounds super duper fresh with whatever you listen to, but it makes you feel makes you feel good. It makes you vibe with it. There's a freshness to where I'm like, this band can definitely go places, along with a lot of the other Thriller bands as well. Remember, I said Avoid, Catch Your Breath, The Word Alive, who we're still trying to bring on the podcast, Rain City Drive, Outline and Color, and of course Happy Days as well. This one, man, Luke's got it, man. Luke's got the mindset, and the pandemic really slowing them down in terms of not rushing their stuff out there really, really, really helped. I must say that. This was one, I think, I don't know why, I'm feeling more connected to this episode, maybe more than some of the other ones that I've done recently. I mean, trust, I love the one we did with Rose Colored World. I absolutely love the one we did with Patient 67. The one we did with Lucrezia. I can't mess that up. But this one just sticks out in some different way emotionally. Like, I'm much more connected to Happy Days now than I don't think I ever possibly could have been. Just from this interview, but then listening to music, I'm like, it all makes sense. I just feel good listening to their stuff. That's it. And I'm talking to Luke, like, I'm just positive right now. I feel as positive as I normally do, like when I'm just listening to music and in the present moment having a good time. This one was something that was purely incredible. I absolutely loved it. And now you're going to want to follow along with Happy Days too. So go to the description of the podcast. You're going to find where it says Find Happy Days Online. There's going to be links and labels for everything for them. So you can follow them on social media, watch their YouTube videos, buy some merch, buy concert tickets for them, go stream their music, and make sure, like if you said concert tickets, go see them play live. Definitely worth it. I am saying it even though I've never seen them live yet, but please go and do so if they're in an area near you. Also, please make sure to follow along with the Chord Progression podcast. We're on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok for your viewing pleasure for social media stuff. Again, all a bunch of little short form content, some fun stuff. You can connect with us on there. We talk to everyone all the time. And Instagram live streams Wednesday nights at 9 p.m. Central, unless something happens, like if I'm going to a concert on Wednesday night and Kevin's got to go smashy. Please make sure to hit that follow button if you're on YouTube, or subscribe button on YouTube, or follow if you're on Spotify, Podcast, or Amazon. Please go do that right now, because you're not going to miss out on more of these Chord Progression podcast reviews. It is your gateway to new rock and metal music. Don't miss out on it. Also want to thank Phoenix Fitness. Remember, 20% off. 20% off. Use the code CPP20 at FXFit.com. Thank you, Phoenix Fitness. Tongue-tied. This is what happens when you do 2 straight podcasts in a row after a long, full day of work and working out and waking up at 4:30 in the morning, because it's like 8 p.m. right now, and I'm like, But we still bring in the energy. Oh, yeah. Thank you, Luke, once again, man. This was awesome. I cannot wait to have you on the podcast again in maybe at the end of the year, maybe 2024, because we got to do this every year, man. This was a lot of fun. So on that note, that's going to be it for me, guys. Thank you very much for listening to the Chord Progression podcast, the gateway to new rock and metal music. My name is Kevin, and you guys know how I end every single one of the big, healthy, and hearty. See ya!